but it was difficult because the timestamps were weird. Like Apple remembers your home timestamp when you set up your phone. So because I set it up as America, New York, even though I was in Paris, it still had the timestamp stored in America, New York. It's weird.
Every time.
Every time. I need to change it. That's why. It just doesn't sound like. Welcome to our Point Forensics podcast on Unallocated Space. This podcast is a live conversation about current issues and solutions within the digital forensics and incident response community. We're excited to learn with you about the space from industry-leading experts and passionate individuals supporting the DFIR community. For those of you that don't know us, we are a small business headquartered in Tampa, Florida. Our Point focuses on developing products and solutions for law enforcement, military, and beyond to make digital forensics more accessible to all users. My name is Amy Moles. I'm the CEO and co-founder of ArcPoint Forensics. I've supported the DFR community for over a decade as a defense contractor supporting the DoD space, as well as the intelligence community before making the leap to establish ArcPoint Forensics. I will hand it over to Jared.
Thanks, Amy. My name is Jared. Today, I'm excited to introduce Heather Mahalik. She is the Senior Director of Digital Intelligence at Cellbrite. She advises on strategic digital intelligence operations and educates D4 professionals on the latest changes in the space and how Cellbrite helps to address them. For more than 19 years, Heather has worked on high-stress and high-profile cases involving everything from child exploitation to Osama bin Laden's digital media. She has helped law enforcement, e-discovery firms, and the federal government extract and manually decode artifacts used in solving investigations around the world. Heather is the co-author of Practical Mobile Forensics, currently a bestseller from Pact Publishing, and serves as the D4 curriculum lead, faculty fellow instructor, and author of 4585, Smartphone Forensic Analysis in Depth at the SANS Institute. Heather, welcome to the podcast. It's great to have you.
Thank you. That was chaotic. All the things.
Yeah. Try to
Thank
make it
you
through.
for having me.
Yeah, it's great catching up with you and just learning a little bit about what's, everything going on currently in digital forensics and all the work that you're doing in SANS. So can you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the industry and what piqued your interest?
Yeah, so this is crazy. In December, it will be 20 years. 20. It's mind-blowing. I remember saying I'll only do this for 20 years and I'm done, which is not true. I'm not going to Tom Brady it just yet and say I'm done. But I was in the military. I was in the Air Force, and I thought I wanted to do latent print analysis. That's what my degree was in. And I went on a job interview at Miami PD, and I hated it. Like, I sat there and watched people look at their screens and do the 7 points and fingerprints rolling across the screen. I'm like, not good. Not going to be happy. But I didn't know what else to do. So randomly one day on the back of a C-130, someone said, "Are you that forensic girl?" And I was like, "That is me." And he's like, "Would you interview with Mantech?" And I was like, "I will interview anywhere." I was working in a hair salon giving paraffin hand dips and scheduling your next appointment. That's what I was doing. And he got me an interview at the Computer Investigations and Forensics Division at State Department. And it kicked off. But I was hired just as an evidence technician to start. Right place, right time. Could kind of read Spanish, kind of. And they needed help in N-Case one day, booking or bookmarking things in Spanish. And I was like, I'll try. Show me what to do.
What did an evidence technician do at an entry level there?
So everything from order equipment for the office to go on the search warrants. And that's something that was huge for me. I remember my first search warrant, my boss said to me, "Take out all the hard drives." And I remember just smiling. He's like, "You don't know what a hard drive is, do you?" I was like, I don't.
Also not going to admit it.
I don't. So he showed me, and he's like, we were in Mexico at one of the embassies, and I had to get 47 hard drives. And I remember these were like the old school platter ones. And I was on, what is that other podcast called? Chewing the Fat. And they told me to tell them about one of my biggest mistakes. I had about 20 hard drives in my hands walking, and they all fell.
Ooh.
They all fell. And I just picked them all back up. I was like, "Ooh, that's bad."
Looking back, you're like, "Oh, that was really bad." But at the time, you probably just like went with it.
Yeah, I'm like, run, race. This is so great. This is so exciting. I'm on a search warrant. I'm some crazy 23-year-old with no clue what I'm doing, just trying to do my best job and learn.
That's awesome. Well, I know that you're like the go-to person for the latest gadgets and updates and doing all the fun research and everything. How did you find yourself there from dumping platter hard drives on the ground to now?
It's, I ask myself this all the time. Like one, why do people trust me? Two, how did I end up like being this person? So FBI, the Behavioral Analysis Unit, they're the criminal profilers. I've been working with them a lot. 3 years ago, I got lucky enough to go in and meet them and talk to them. Like, if I were investigating a serial killer, how would I profile an Android and iPhone for just weird behaviors, where to start? And since then, I've got to help with 3 cool cases. So I literally got a call the other night and they're like, hey, will you help us? We are unsure of what we're doing and we're going to trust you. But I'm like, yeah, I'm going to have to research some of these things. So I honestly still to this day don't know. I feel like I've thrown myself out there with blogging, with Sans, with just saying, hey, I'll help you, and being curious that people started to trust me. But I also am big on, if I made a mistake, I try not to take it down. So I have one blog that it was wrong. I said data was encrypted and it was really just in the cloud, but I didn't know. But I kept it there and wrote a new one saying, hey, refer back to this. This is what it looks like when you research, and no one proves you wrong. And it's okay. I think a lot of people are afraid. And maybe that's just my personality that I'm like,
No, I think
I'm wrong. I'm wrong.
Accurate. Yeah.
It's okay.
I think that people are so terrified to be, pinpointed and being like, well, that was an inaccurate artifact. I can't believe that you would post something like that or document it.
And that's what I was afraid of with writing the book. Someone said, never read your reviews. The first thing I did was get on Amazon and read the reviews. Like, what? Have to.
Yeah. So I guess, so how do you deal with negative reviews and comments about some of the work that you do? Do you just push it away, or?
I would love to say yes, that I ignore it, but that's not true. There are some that I'm like, that's ridiculous, where you'll hear everything from, your voice is annoying. I wish you weren't a female instructor. I'm like, okay, those are choices that you have. You could take another class with someone else. It's not me. But when people are just mean to be mean, that's where I have the issue. I'm like, it hurts my feelings. It makes me second guess. But I am a crazy person and try to thoroughly research. And now that there's the DFIR review, I feel like that takes so much pressure off anyone who is worried, like, did I do this right? Put it in through that process. And then at least 5 other experts will look at what you've done and replicate it. And they put a seal on it. So it's not just you. It's now you and a team of other DFIR professionals who will validate. That's made me feel a lot better. A lot better.
Okay.
The what was the research? Matt Geckel and I did the Bluetooth research. And it's crazy. It was a span of 3 years, but we didn't even know each other then. Now we both work at Celebrite. We wrote that blog. It won Blog of the Year last year at the Forecast Awards. But it was difficult because the timestamps were weird. Like Apple remembers your home timestamp when you set up your phone. So because I set it up as America, New York, even though I was in Paris, it still had the timestamp stored in America, New York. It's weird. Like Bluetooth is weird. And it made me so uncomfortable. And that's why I never released anything. And Matt and I were finally like, let's just do it. Let's release it, have it reviewed. And it's great, but it's one of those weird things. But that fed into iLeap and other tools now because they're like, oh, we weren't parsing that timestamp right. So it really is a community effort.
Yeah, imagine if you didn't share that at all. I mean, the amount of hours you spent doing that work too would have just been a complete waste, I feel like, if you didn't share it.
Yep. And that's where this is hard too, like the hours, like how long it takes. Some things I cannot let go. Like I'll see it and I'm like, ooh, I'm really curious about that. I'm going to research it and see. But then there's also, if someone asks you like, hey, Amy, will you help me do this? But they really want you just to do it and give them the answers all on a platter. I would rather collaborate and work with people who also want to learn. It's just nicer. And it makes it like a sounding board or something else. But now I feel like my little army of people who want to collaborate with me. And I'm like, here's our newest thing, guys. Let's do this. And it's fun.
So where do you source like your gadgets from? Or do you just go out and purchase them? Is it something that your work provides you?
Honestly, it's to the point where I don't even know where I got some of these devices. A lot of them are my old phones, new phones. Celebrate has provided me some. Sans has provided me some. I use my own phones a lot though. Like I have usually like 2, like my primary Android and iPhone that are always with me that I travel with no matter what, because I can't travel with all these. But then I have my own phone. The Bluetooth connection thing, it was about connecting to a car. All I had with me were my AirPods at that time. So I was like, I'm going to try to pair it to my AirPods. It's not a car. I'm going to have a car in Paris to test it.
Yeah.
But it worked. It was perfect. So sometimes you just have to make it work.
Yeah, I would imagine that traveling as much as you do, probably going through security with 12 cell phones is a little bit suspicious.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you ever have to explain that?
So I had one issue. I was traveling down to Fort Bragg to do some training once, and I think I had 36 phones in my bag. But I guess someone who had left a range had touched one of them, so it tested positive for the residue. I thought I was going to miss my flight. I was sitting in that room like, I'm a good person. I swear. Like I don't know what to tell you. Like I had extensive searches, and that was the worst case I've had. I've been in situations before where people tried to take hard drives away from me because they're like, your bags are too heavy. So I had hard drives in my purse, in my backpack, like just freely floating. I'm like, you can't take them. They're evidence. But with my own test devices, I try to keep it to like 4 max, like a rooted and a jailbroken of each, and then non-rooted and non-jailbroken. But then there's all the cables too. So there's the cables, there's adapters. It's a bit extreme.
How do you keep it all organized?
I have a bad bag.
So how do you keep all the cables organized? Do you have like a little, so for me, I use like a little necklace holder instead.
Ooh.
That just, instead of like, the little travel purses that you can pack necklaces and earrings in and stuff like that.
That's a good idea. I'm chaos. I have this thing from like Microsoft that they sent to me, but I keep everything in this desk drawer here, and then I pick my key favorite ones when I travel, and half the time they end up just a mess in my bag, which is sad. I should be better organized.
I like to order all of the cables multiple times over time and then scatter them around like little seeds, and then I find them when I need them.
Yes.
That's how that ends up working out.
I also try to just keep them all plugged in like this back here, so I have them. That's like my little holder point.
Oh my
But then there's all my data extractions too, because someone will be like, hey, on iOS 7.1, well, I'm like, I don't know, but I have these backups
how do you
and
keep
this data from
software
all
and backups and like acquisitions you've done over time that you've worked with that you know and understand the contents of? Like, how do you store that and how do you track that?
That's actually a great question, Jared. I just worked with my friend Phil. He set up, he lives in Delaware, so he's like, ship it to me. It's tax-free. I'm like, excellent. So I ordered a NAS, and he's setting it all up for me because I'm out of storage space all the time. And I'm so torn on what to keep because I like to keep, for every version of Android and iOS, I need to keep it. And if it's a checkmate extraction, or is it a backup? Is it encrypted, not encrypted? I keep all this stuff because who knows what will come up. And then I try to keep devices too with old versions. So some of these devices have really old versions of Android and iOS. I have more in my basement because you never know.
Talk us through like your structure, like your framework for setting up a new project, or because a lot of people who are performing research on their first times going through it, it can research, the term research in general seems like a daunting task. One, there's a lot of imposter syndrome that happens there where people think they're not good enough, they don't know enough. There's a lot of like, what if I make a mistake and I don't want to release it, similar to what you were already just talking about. So where do you begin?
I used to be chaos. I won't lie. I used to have a notebook where I would literally like write down outgoing call. This time, this happened. I've learned a lot. So now what I will do is I usually talk to myself on my real phone. That way I know what the data should look like on my own device in addition to my test device. I always try to make sure I have a device where I can get the most access to it, especially if it's application related. And Android, you have to make sure you can get a full file system or you're wasting all of your time to begin with. But if you have an iPhone and it's jailbroken, and this is something that's really interesting. I work with this guy, Ian Whiffen, who wrote an open source tool, Artex, and it's amazing. Things that used to take me hours to do in research, he's like, why don't you just plug it in and look at it live? I'm like, what? I was like, holy cow. So I'm constantly learning too. So I try to, if it's an iPhone, if you can directly interact with it. A simple question came up once, like, what happens if I change the timestamp and send a text? So literally how I was testing that is sending a text, changing the timestamp, writing down what the text message was, dumping the phone, parsing the phone to look at it. Where Ian's like, just plug it in and there's the answer. I'm like, holy cow, that just saved me hours. But I try to do things like if you're sending a text, right? Sent text message with attachment, time bomb for 3 minutes, sharing my location with you. Instead of before I'd be like, hey, Amy and Jared. And I would make a note saying, hey, Amy and Jared means I sent an attachment. I'm like, this is crazy. But I also do all my testing in local time. So if I have to write a query or anything, because then you aren't messing up your own time conversions. And that is the main reason that Bluetooth thing worked out for me, is because my local time did not make sense. It was not Paris. It kept saying Eastern. And I feel like if I had done that maybe in UTC, I wouldn't have realized UTC +1 or thought about it. So yeah, the time zone, local time on your test system. If it's malware, I try to do it inside of a VM just because that's what you're supposed to do. But I've never had malware take over my system or anything like that. It's actually harder to get malware than you would even think, like with the malware testing.
Really? Why do you think that
Yes.
is?
I don't know. Like, I don't know if the signatures are just bad or if these devices are just locked down and protected now on Android, but getting infected is a lot harder than it used to be. It's such a pain. When people are like, hey, can you give us some malware samples? I'm like, try. It's not as easy as it used to be.
It is a little bit more difficult because you can't email them usually unless you like take extra steps to protect it. Putting it on a shared drive like Google Drive or something like that can be a challenge. And as soon as you download it, the computer wants to get rid of it. So it just there's a lot of hurdles there. You got to take extra steps to actually pass it along.
You know what else is fun that I do recommend to people? If you can form a little team to research with you and do a scenario together. So like I became this person, Rachel, for a month and talked to other people. And I was just Rachel. That was the only persona. But then we shared our data with each other and looked at it as a whole. And we knew our theme and what we were doing. But it was really cool. We put together like a fake case. It's almost like creating CTF data. It's a lot of fun. And you learn a lot from what you're supposed to be in that persona at that time. It's like all my CTF stuff with Ruth Langmore and Beth Dutton. I love being these different personas and doing these car thefts and child, like what were we doing? Child trafficking was one. Just like putting kids at locations.
A little south.
Yes.
People are like, we need to look into this person, this Rachel person. Please tell me you name your like themes and teams around like certain, like were you Rachel from Friends? Like were you all just like
yes, and her password was Ross for life.
Perfect. I like how you carried it all the way through.
I do. Like Beth Dutton, all her passwords were John's Girl, Rip for life, like ridiculous things. Farm Girl.
Are you into Yellowstone?
Yes. I love it.
Yellowstone. I think all of us have a little bit of Beth in us. It comes out occasionally.
You need her.
Yeah. All right. Well, Jared, do you have any questions?
I'd love to talk about Montana.
Okay.
Because you were building a cabin out there, right?
Yes. Eventually.
Eventually? Okay.
Yeah, so right now it's just land.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was looking out there. Love the countryside. So anyways, I would love to end up out there for at least, seasonally at some point.
It is amazing. Anyone who has not been there needs to go, for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And you have horses too, right?
I did. So I had a horse. He now lives in Howard County, Maryland. I sold him when I had my daughter. She was like 4 months old because I felt like between work travel and fox hunting, it was just an all-day commitment. And I was trying to explain that to my son the other day. He's like, Mom, why can't you still have Chief? I was like, I'm going to your hockey game. He's like, well, you could go to my hockey game and then go ride Chief. I'm like, that's not how it works. You don't just join the fox hunt midway through. You start from the beginning and you stay to the end. And I was like, I had to choose between you and a horse, kiddo. And he's like, well, that sucks. I'm like, I know.
And I love you more than the horse.
Yes. Yeah. I'm like, so you
lucky.
win, bud.
So
my
tying
goodness.
digital forensics and the Wild Wild West back together, I do feel like in some respects, digital forensics, there is an element of the Wild Wild West to it, in that if you like set out a project for yourself, like I need to answer this question because I can't find an answer online, and then you set out to do that, you really are like probably one of the first or a handful of people to actually go and explore that. Because I mean, stuff is changing all the time. So I just think that's one thing that's actually really cool about the industry. Same as was true with cybersecurity, but especially within digital forensics, if there's something that you need to understand, a lot of times you're going to have to set up a scenario and run the test yourself and go through and proof the results. And then it does make it challenging to publish the results, because a lot of times it's hard to find people to proof your work, or go back and check everything that you've done.
Yeah, and you may waste a lot of time. Josh Hickman and I decided we were going to try to do Android health research together. So for like 2 months, I wore a Samsung watch on this wrist and my Apple Watch on this one. And we found we were just running in circles. We couldn't get anywhere with it. And we're like, this is why vendors don't parse it. Done. We're done.
Yeah.
We tried and we quit.
You probably got a lot of strange looks. They're like, why is this lady wearing 2 fitness devices everywhere?
You should see me like when I get out my phones, like in an airport when I want to connect to the Wi-Fi, and I'm like, okay, I have an iPad, I have 5 phones, I have 3 laptops, and people are like, psycho.
Suspicious.
Yeah, but
You're
no
the
one
person
asked
that
me.
they actually call. See something, say something. They're calling on you.
I know. I'm like, no one
Like,
ever
this is
is
off.
like, what are you doing?
That's funny. Oh my gosh. So yeah, you do travel a lot for work. We talked about like how you do your research on the fly, which is just using personal devices and keeping stuff at minimum. So how do you balance everything going on like? I know as for me, personally, like just being a woman in tech in general and having kids, there's a lot of negative like connotation around that. Like, oh, you travel a lot, you work a lot.
I hear the travel all the time, from people at the bus stop to friends that live around here. Like, oh, must be awful. You travel all the time. Like, I actually love it. It's fantastic. Or my least favorite question always was, who's watching your kids? Like, oh, it's amazing.
I just duct tape them to the wall.
Yeah, there's this man who is called their father. It's mind blowing. But I have an amazing nanny, and I would die without her. She is amazing and will do anything. And she's so supportive of my career, but my kids are too. And I've been seeing a therapist since June, and she really has pushed this on me. Like, don't make it always be negative about work. Like, let them understand mommy's working really hard. And when this is achieved, we will celebrate. And this is why. So like, I just had course edits turned in, and they were looking forward to course edits because we were going to Target and to a steakhouse, the 3 of us. And they're like, edits are done. This is so great. But they get it. And they understand like that when I put them to bed, I'm coming back into my office, and my son will wake up and say, how many slides did you get done? And he cares. He follows it. Like, did you do any new labs? What is this? What is this? And he tries to be involved. So I'm trying to do that. But my issue is I hide in work. If anything isn't going well in life, I find the comfort behind my computer, doing things like this and working. So I have to get better at that. But I think too, like, and I don't know what your opinions are. Some of my best friends are the people I work with. So I don't mind working because I'm spending time with them and they're my family. So it's nice. But I have some people that are being really harsh critics right now, saying things in my life are the way they are, because I would rather be talking to you two than going out and having coffee with people in my neighborhood. And I'm like, sorry. This is who I am.
I feel like we're cooler anyways.
So it's tough. It's so tough. The D4 Summit last year, I did the keynote with Melinda Lee, and it was on mental health and like working too much, not being outside, not doing things for yourself. And we did not plan anything other than some key blogs that she had read. And our rule was anything is on the table. And I felt like I was going to cry like 3 times because I didn't even know where the conversation was going, but it was really good.
Did that make you really uncomfortable?
It doesn't. It's just I didn't realize the things that I was doing so wrong that I really do need to consider or change.
Yeah.
But even I was on a call with my boss today and he's like, all right, I lost your attention. I'm like, I'm sorry. This email came in. WhatsApp is blowing up. And I texted him and I was like, that was actually pretty rude. How about I walk my dog the next time we talk? Because I could use some fresh air. And he's like, that's a great idea. Because I'm always like connected and distracted and it's crazy.
Yeah. What are some things that people can do? Go ahead, Amy.
Sometimes a brisk walk and stuff like that can just like refresh you and just, I'm trying not to drink as much coffee as possible. It's not working. So I'll get up and I'll like go for a quick walk or something like that. And it will help me refocus where I'm at, and not feel so buried by all the stuff that's hitting my inbox. That's something that's hard.
What are some things that people can do or pitfalls that people can avoid, like based on your experience in the high performance environment that you work in? Like pitfalls that people should avoid or steps they can take to make it easier.
So something I used to do that was bad is I was driven by billable hours and money. And I know some people have to work in that type of environment, but I burnt out so quickly because it was all about the money. Now I'm driven by the mission and it like making a difference for people. And I think that helps. My money is the same if I help 0 people in the week or if I help 5 people in the week. It isn't going to change anything. So I think if you can land in a place where that is what you get to wake up to, and that's at the end of the day what you get to close down, it makes such a difference. Money obviously is amazing. People want more money all the time, but it can be a really nasty slope. And I was on that slope for a while and then had to take a step back from it because the mission matters. And that's even moving up within companies that I'm at. I don't want to just be the person that can't make people feel good about themselves every day.
Yeah.
So you have a team,
sometimes priorities can shift too.
How many people are on your team?
Which team? Stands or Celebrate? Like there's like, it's
I guess
chaos.
both. We'll split them into 2.
So at Celebrate, we call ourselves the Dream Team. And what's crazy is 2 of them now, Ronan and Paul, are on my team. But for the last 2.5 years, Ronan, Paul, Matt, and I, we weren't even a real thing. We just called ourselves the Dream Team and did stuff together. And Ian Whiffen, and it was fun. Like Ian works separately, Matt works separately, and Paul, Ronan, and I all work together with about 3 others. But it's almost like I feel like we're like little, I don't know, like little robots, and then we just divide, like split up, come back together, split up, come back together to just go do things. But at Sands, I think now I'm in charge of 13 courses, and then everyone who writes those and teaches those, and it's insane. There are some that I don't even know, I'm sure, that are new to the program. So yeah, it's interesting. I just ask anything. All I want is people just to be a mature adult. Like own your work, do it, and don't ask to be micromanaged.
Yeah, sometimes that's a lot to ask for, surprisingly. But yeah, how did you get involved with Sands? Like, how did you step into that instructor role?
So I worked at Strauss Friedberg at the time, and Owen Casey was our lab director. And Owen was writing this course for Sands, which was like mobile device acquisition, I think. And he asked me to look at it, and I was correcting it for him. I'm like, this isn't right. This isn't right. I would do it this way. So I was doing things for Sands behind the scenes without even knowing what Sands was. And then one day I was introduced to Rob Lee at the Silver Diner in Tyson's, and he's like, we want you to teach for us, and we want you to start writing the course and do all these things. I'm like, maybe. And that was 11.5 years ago. So it just like kept going. I was like, oh, this is actually fun. I actually feel like I learned more writing the course and standing in front of the classroom than I did researching and writing the entire book, any case I've ever worked. Because it's almost like when you're standing in that classroom, you're testifying to the material. And these people will ask you anything they want, anything. It's like nothing is off the wall. Crazy questions that you have to be prepared for. So I feel like it just keeps you sharper and smarter.
Yeah, it makes sense. And provide you immediate feedback as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's so great when you get feedback where someone's like, hey, thanks to your research or thanks to your class or thanks to your book, I was able to do this. in my case. It's really nice when people actually give feedback. It's rare, but it's nice.
That is rare.
I know, you guys know where we used to work, there was no feedback. It's like, maybe.
So, yes, sometimes you're just doing reports and you're like, so did that go anywhere? Was that helpful? Am I doing my job correctly?
Yep.
Yeah. So how, like, when you're providing feedback to the people on your teams, like what does that feedback look like? Is it a formal process? Is it informal? Do you have like a certain rhythm that you go at?
Oh, that's interesting. So with Sands, I try to do quarterly meetings. I have one coming up where I try to keep them mostly positive, and I try to keep it 30 minutes or less. So it's just quick and to the point. Something else I found, and I'm sure if anyone at Sands heard me say this, they'd be like, oh my gosh. But I was in a sorority, and I was president of the sorority, and we used to have this thing called a gavel passing. And if you had the gavel in your hand, you could say whatever you wanted, and no one could interrupt you or say you were wrong. It was like, get anything off your chest that you needed to. So I have some sessions with people that teach that I like to call it a gavel passing. I will just sit there. I will drink my wine. I will listen to it. And if there is an action, I will do it. If not, they just needed to vent. As a grown adult, like frustrated, you have your gavel, you can do that. But at Celebrate, it's totally different. We do a weekly catch up over coffee that is pretty chill, and just divide and conquer and make sure we're all on the same page and no one is stepping on the other person or we're not holding each other back. But I feel like we talk all day long just through chat. Like even if it's just like memes or something, we're always chatting. So it's pretty clear communication.
Do you feel like that's helpful? Like
I
the
do.
one-on-ones?
So with my current boss right now, I have one-on-ones with him. And then I also they do something called skip level, where I skip a level with him. And sometimes it's with our CEO and sometimes it's with an EVP. But it's interesting to skip that level of management and hear what they think I should be doing, which is kind of, it's kind of cool. So they call it skip level, and not everyone gets them. But when you do, it's interesting. I have it like every 3 weeks. And sometimes I get tasked with things, but it's like different. So it's good. But honestly, sometimes my one-on-one, we're so up to speed. It's just like, hey, what's going on in your home life? What are you doing this weekend? Which is fine too.
Really, really casual. Yeah. I think that's probably nice though. People are like, once you get to know people at that level, right? Like to their core, what they're doing at home and, you know, some of their hobbies and stuff, they're more open to you about sharing some issues that they're having, or maybe they're feeling like they're in a stagnant environment. How do they rise above that? Those type of things.
Yeah, that's a concept I hadn't heard of before, so that's really cool.
Yeah,
I have never either. When I first got scheduled for one, I'm like, what is this? I don't understand. Am I in trouble? Yeah. What did I do?
The way I've experienced skip level in the past is, you know, day one, basically you get an introduction to the guy high up, and then the last day, you know, you may get another meeting on your way out. Yep. That's about it.
Well, at first I thought it was because my boss was in trouble. And I was like, he's so great. What's happening? Why? He's like, no, I just want to talk to you about what I think you're doing and what you think you're doing and your goals. I'm like, oh, okay. This is great.
Like, so just to be clear, no one's losing their job.
Yes. Yeah. I was like, okay, all right. But it is a cool concept. I do like it. And I also like, they have done, and Sands has done this too, where you get like spot bonuses for performance instead of like having to wait till the end of the year and then everyone's getting it. Like, it's nice to have little feedback surprises like, hey, you know what? You kicked butt the last quarter. Thank you. Here you go.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of people too, in a certain sense, expect that. And the individuals that don't expect it are pleasantly surprised. Because the people that don't expect it are usually there for, like what we were talking about before, is like the mission, not so much the money. So,
and some companies I feel like are so hyper focused on the negative behavior that they forget about the good performers. And that's something with Sands I'm really trying to push. Instead of saying, oh, all these people are late for this, or these people aren't turning in, or they're hard to work with, why not stop even mentioning them and just start rewarding the heck out of the people who are amazing? And then the people who are not will realize, like, why are those people getting these things and I'm not? Well, they got a cabana in Vegas because they all turned in their stuff on time this year, and you did not, so you were not invited.
They also got bottle service.
Mm-hmm. Yep, there's lots of things coming that way. Keep watching. Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Well, so we have this little segment that we like to do. Jared, do you want to introduce it?
Yes, it is Experts React, which is very popular nowadays. And we like to go back and pull up old movie clips or TV shows where they're doing some kind of digital forensic-y or cyber hacky thing, and just play through it and just comment on it, like, what is reality now, and and what's the joke.
Okay.
So I think Amy's got some queued up, and then I've got some too that I'm
So I only have
about.
one. I am trying to, I don't watch a lot of movies or TV shows, so it takes me a long time. Jared, I feel like he just has like a good routine in his life. Talk about work-life balance. I do not. But so this is a movie that just came out, Scream, for those of you. We're not going to watch the hacking part where, people are getting sliced and stabbed and all that fun stuff. I skipped ahead. But have you seen it yet?
I have seen it in the movie theater.
What? Okay. All right. So I think a lot of people are terrified of this actually happening. So let me just pull this up. I think a lot of people are just makes them really uncomfortable. So this is a smart home where it has the smart locks on the front door, and I'm assuming probably the back door and everything else connected. So before, since we're skipping through, this woman was receiving text messages from her friend who she thought was Amber, and turns out she got a spooky phone call saying, "This is not Amber. Like, do you want to play a game?" So that's where we're at. So.
Doors unlocked. All doors locked. Doors unlocked.
Stop it there.
Here's a huge spoiler alert. That girl goes through so much.
Does she really? Poor thing. Well, so I think a lot of people are terrified of this actually happening in their life, where someone's going to come in and it's going to be terrible and all those other things. And I think there is some
That's
pretty
how I
easy
experience
stuff
Google
to
Home.
mitigate around that to prevent you from, your house getting hacked.
So I did a whole thing on securing your family. So I recently took over all of my security cameras, all of like the locks and all the things. And I could barely get into some of them. So the fact that some killer is going to be outside and magic, I'd be like, can you come in and also help me connect my Sonos bars? No.
Can you get it to work from inside the house, please?
Oh, thank God you're here.
Be so difficult.
Yeah, that's
But anything is possible. Like tonight, my Nest camera is going to be hacked. And I'll be like, great, there it is. But yeah, right. And he's on Amber's phone too, hiding in her closet, watching her. It's like Matt Damon, like the Matt Damon stuff is what I used to always show, where he'd clone the SIM card and he was immediately that person. I'm like, okay.
So it's not, we shouldn't be overly worried about this happening.
We should not be overly worried unless he has on that mask, the ghost face mask.
Yeah, I think you have bigger problems at that point if this person shows up with a, giant weapon and a mask.
That part did make me nervous though. Like I cannot imagine looking at my phone and seeing like, even, I don't know. Have you seen the movie The Strangers? It's the scariest movie I've ever seen in my life. But I think of like, I am a psycho about looking at my cameras outside and seeing one of their faces. I would have a heart attack. It would be terrible.
No, I haven't seen it. I probably won't because I'm not a huge fan of scary movies.
That one is the most terrifying because it's very realistic and there's no reason behind the killings. It's very scary.
The thing that frustrates me about this scene is how quick the lock is, because anybody who has this lock, they're always like,
Yep.
Like,
and they're all timed at the same time. Too.
I'm like, wow, that's whatever company that is. I need that one. That one's fast.
So true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It used
So
to be.
we-
I mean, it used to be a lot easier. So I mean, it's good that security's come a long way, especially in the last 10 years. But it used to be that you could just go online and punch in like a manufacturer of a webcam and just start scrolling through people's living rooms. It used to be wide open.
But it also depends too. What if you keep your Wi-Fi exactly as it comes, like with your router, and you don't change like your admin password? All my stuff is mostly through my Wi-Fi. So if you get on my Wi-Fi and then you can scan my house for the devices or hack my Google account and scan my, but I have multi-factor authentication too. So anyone that wants to connect then needs a code. So if I got a freaking request for one of my cameras and a code, I'd probably have a mild heart attack then too.
Yeah. That's happened to me, actually. I've
Oh,
gotten,
geez.
thank God for two-factor authentication, but I got a code that randomly popped up on my phone. I'm like, I'm in bed. Like, I'm not doing anything.
Yep.
But let me
That's
just
happened
go through
recently
and
with
just
even
change
my
everything immediately.
Instagram. I was like, who's trying to get my Instagram? If you want in that badly, I'll just give you access. It's not that exciting.
Yeah. You're like, there's nothing going on here.
Yeah. Mountains and kids. That's it.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's. I mean, sometimes they'll just send you links, like they'll pretend like they're attempting to get into your account, and they'll be like, "Hey, click on this link to verify." It's very clever.
Yep.
I got an email actually the other day saying my personal Gmail account was hacked, and it was a beautiful email that I should send so much Bitcoin to this address and don't bother because all of my secrets, my top secrets, are out. And I was like, I am not that interesting. I don't have any secrets. I was like, I don't even know what's in my Google Drive. Do I even use it for anything? It's like, this man, this poor man.
Amazing.
Yeah. So we always rate everything from a 0 to or 1 to 5
Sorry, that's
sector
me.
level. 5 being like, this was an amazing scene, couldn't have performed it better myself, to I hardly made it through the scene because it's so unbelievable. So what would you rate this dream scene?
Oh, I would rate that. It could be possible. Like the speed of the locks, I would say at least a 3 because it could happen. It definitely
So
could.
it's cringeworthy at best.
Yeah. But even think, what if it's like your ex or someone that's been in your house? Then it could go up to a 5. They could be like
true.
out there, like getting in with your locks. So I got to change your whole system in your home. Change it all. Reset the Wi-Fi. Take it back.
And the more you know, the more you're
that's probably something a lot of people don't think about, when they go through a breakup or separate from somebody where they've had access, that person has had access to a lot of their secure devices, going through and making sure that they no longer do.
Yeah. All right, Jared, what one do you have?
Hold on.
Oh, there's 2 of them now.
I'm just gonna mute that.
Speaking of cloning.
Am I hearing myself?
Yeah, there we go. We cloned Jared.
All right. Okay, so let's turn this down because I'm hearing myself. So this is from Designated Survivor, which is just great. He's so sick of Designated Survivor, but it's the gift that keeps on giving. And
yes,
so this is a scene where they need to
gives and gives and gives.
It does. They need to track somebody's cell phone, and they've kind of gone rogue because their main government structure entity within the FBI isn't supporting them, so they of course have to do it on their own. And they just knock it out of the ballpark. So we'll get this queued up here.
Okay, signaling system 7, SS7. Let's every cell phone tower talk to each other so your phone works anywhere in the world.
How does that help us?
If I can get in, we can connect the dots from your cell back to the one that mystery woman called you from. Got it, I'm in.
Good job, Chuck.
Don't thank me yet, I still gotta backtrack the number that called your cell. Damn it.
What?
Network picked up the intrusion. It's a race to see what happens first. I track your mystery caller's phone, or they track us. Come on, come on.
Come on, man.
Got it.
Looks like the call to
Oh,
your
man,
cell came
is it
from a
awesome?
burner phone.
Purchased from where?
The convenience store on DuPont Circle.
Nailed it.
Why did she look so annoyed? Didn't she just give him the answer?
And didn't she just get shot? Was she shot or stabbed? I remember that one. Poor Chuck. She's never nice to him. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
not good. It would be nice. We wouldn't have jobs if that's how easy this was going to be.
So it's not that easy, you're saying? We shouldn't believe that?
Should not believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that one. The guy, he's just working so hard and just, mission done, knocked out the ballpark.
I wonder what he was really typing. Yeah.
Hello,
With
mom.
angry face.
Hello, mom. Hello, mom. Over and over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jared, do you have
okay.
another one?
Yeah, let's rate that.
All right, let's rate it.
I'm
Can
gonna
we
give it a
just talk
5 out of
about how
5.
much I don't like that show? So I feel like my
giving it
rating
a
is going to be
5.
biased.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it a 5 out of
I
5
liked it at
because
first, and then she annoyed me.
who annoys you?
You gave it a 5.
Oh yeah, that's a 7. It's so hard to do. That's obviously a 5.
Wait, what is this scale again?
0 being horrible, hardly made it through. 5 being couldn't have done it better myself.
Nobody could do that better themselves.
Sure. Okay. Just making sure. I think Chuck did a great job. I'm gonna have to put that down at like 1. I know. I'm sorry, Jared. I'm sorry.
All right. Well, maybe this next one.
Oh, there's more.
We'll get about it. Oh, this one's real quick. It's like 37 seconds. Brooklyn Nine-Nine goodness.
Oh, this is gonna be good.
Yeah.
Is
Amy,
that
what'd you
so
rate
bad?
it? All right. Oh. Screen here.
One of Jared's is
Too many
faster than the
screens.
other Jared. Super entertaining.
One of the Jareds.
Oh, technology. All right. I love Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Make this full screen.
No thanks. Here are the account numbers for the bank where the money showed up. I'm in a real hurry. You think you can trace it back to its source?
You questioning my abilities? Watch this. What's your name?
Why do you...
Terrence Vincent Jeffords.
Wait, what is happening?
You're getting hacked, bro. That's what's happening.
Don't do that.
I'm in your home computer.
What? Get out!
Got a lot of songs by Natalie Imbruglia.
How about those back in the 90s?
Nope, downloaded on Thursday. Okay, now watch the pandemic spread. There's a document here that looks to be fan fiction for the show Madam Secretary.
Oh, Sarge, I didn't know you were a fan of
That was a great show.
The show leaves Terry wanting more. I'm just filling in the gap.
His reactions throughout the whole scene are priceless.
This is
Oh, God.
honestly, this is what I think people think that we do.
Yes.
Like my neighbors included. They think like if their phone sits near my phone, I'm magically sucking data off their phone onto mine. Like I am.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm
Yeah,
doing
there's
that.
no legal issues there at all either.
Mm-mm.
That
It's
happens.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that would if he had remote desktop, sure he could do that. But did you see how old the computer screen looked? Did you see that?
No,
when
I didn't
came
catch
up?
that.
It's like, oh my gosh. It was like the meme with the old computer where the guy's like dragging his computer into the trash can.
Yeah.
Awesome. Very low on the scale.
Yeah.
So are we at a 1 or lower than a 1?
Well, here's the thing. If he had true remote desktop activity, he could get in there, but 1. In that speed, yeah.
Jared, does that break your heart? Are you okay?
No, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'll give it a 2. Because
Oh, look at you,
just because if
see?
he had remote desktop, because that's what a lot. I mean, that's what a lot of the scammers do is they'll try to get people to open up remote desktop, and then of course log into their accounts, and that's usually how they get people to transfer money back and forth. So that is the legit way of doing it now. Of course, in that situation, there was probably no remote desktop, but I don't know. Who knows? Yeah, I'll give it 2.
Anything is possible.
Anything is possible.
I guess, yeah, that's true. All right. Well, Heather, thank you so much for joining us on our podcast.
Thank you for having me.
We enjoyed having you. You'll have to come back.
I will. Anytime, let me know.
All right.
All right.
Well, Jared?
That's it. It's good talking to you again, Heather.
Good to see you.
Yeah, you too.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.